Hi, thanks for joining me. So today is my first video with my new microphone. Thank you very much to my Patreon patrons who made it possible for me to pick up some new equipment for my channel. It's not something that I'm really in a position to do right now without some extra support, so I really appreciate that. I also apologize for having taken quite a while to get this set up, but you guys know that I moved recently, and I'm kind of living out of boxes. I just found my mixer yesterday. I just found an XLR cable to get this mic hooked up, so I thought I'd go ahead and make some content. Now, I do want to talk about anime today. I do plan to make some video game related content later, but what gave me the idea for this video is the completionist who recently introduced me to a website called My Anime List. Now, this is a site where you can enter in anime that you're currently watching or you have watched before, and you can give them ratings. Now, what's interesting about this is that for each show, there's also an aggregate rating of all of the people who have rated the show on the site. And I decided that this is a really good way to compare my ratings, especially for things that I gave a very high rating, to the aggregate scores, which, if there's a significant difference in those, indicates that a show is really underrated, as far as I'm concerned. So I thought I'd just talk about some of those shows today, in case those are things that you haven't seen. Now, the rating goes from 10 to 1, 10 being masterpiece, 1 being appalling, and the underration happens when I've rated something like maybe a 10, 9, or 8. And other people, as an aggregate, fall more into the average category. So let's start off here with an OAV series that made a big impact on me when I was first getting into anime. Wasn't one of the very first things I saw, but this is 3x3 Eyes. Now, this is an OAV or OVA series, 4 episodes in the first series and 3 in the second. You can get this on DVD as a set with all of the episodes together, and it's just excellent. It's just the beginning of a manga, as is apt to happen, but it's very cool because it's about this girl who is not human, and she's what's called a Sanjian. Now, she also basically has these 2 personalities when the third eye is open, versus when the eye is closed, and there's a very distinct contrast between the 2 personalities. One is kind of very domineering, sort of like powerful, and the other one is very playful and innocent and kind. So it's an interesting incongruity between those 2 personalities. But she sets out on a journey to become human. This is apparently something that most of the members of her race have done, and it's suspected that she may be really the last of the surviving Sanjian. Of course, she has some sort of like memory issues or something like that, but she does know that she wants to become human, and she knows how to do it. So she seeks out the son of a professor who she runs into in Tibet when he's doing research, and basically he ends up becoming like her familiar. What's interesting about the show is that it has a very kind of a horror theme to it. It's slow pace, I guess, but it has really cool action and a lot of like just sort of interesting like mystical themes to it. And it's actually also really gory. The main character gets killed right at the beginning, so she actually basically merges his soul with hers, and he becomes an undead. So you basically have these 2 characters who are both not human. They're both trying to become human, one of them again and one of them for the first time, and they necessarily end up running into a whole bunch of like freaky sort of otherworld monster creatures and a lot of like underground like magic cults and things like that are trying to get the Sanjian's power or working against them from the background, and it's just an excellent series. The manga series went for 40 volumes. The anime, like I said, is only I think 7 episodes, but it does 2 distinct kind of short story arcs that I think are completely enjoyable on their own, and it also has a very interesting sort of legacy of video game adaptations, some of which I think are actually adaptations of the manga story that never got adapted as an anime, for instance. So unfortunately, I don't think this series has ever been fully as a manga released officially in the West. It's something I have not even finished myself as via alternative means or reading the original manga or anything like that. But the anime is quite good. I give it a 9 out of 10. And as an aggregate, it has at least the first series a 6.95 for a deviation of difference of 2.05 points, which I think is unfortunate. I don't understand why this wouldn't be rated higher. It's a really good show. I definitely recommend that you check it out. Next up we have Bastard, Onkoku no Hakaishin, which I think is like the Dark Destroyer or something like that. Now Bastard is another manga series from the 90s. It's really good. I forget who does the manga, but he's like the same guy that did Combustible Campus Gargus, and Bastard is awesome. Like, it's so good. It's basically like he's a complete anti-hero, the main character, and there's sort of a reason why it's called Bastard. So basically what has happened in this fantasy setting, sword and sorcery, this dark wizard has been I believe he gets sealed within a young boy, or turned into a young boy, something like that. So this boy is raised in this family. I think something to do with like the royal family or something like that. But anyway, he gets resurrected, and he's this the most terrible. It's like he's resurrecting Voldemort, basically. He's this world-renowned dark wizard that is just like nobody wants to have to deal with. And so when this happens, of course, all kinds of people are coming in and trying to kill him. Now he is accompanied by I think she's a princess. This is why I was thinking it was like sort of a royal thing. The princess of this kingdom. And, she, I think, was sort of raised along with this boy, sort of all along. So he kind of has these, kind of sisterly feelings for her, that, in some way kind of, sort of soften. The main character is Dark Schneider, a reference to Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister. There's a lot of heavy metal references in this, from the 80s. And, anyway, so he kind of becomes this sympathetic villain where he really actually wants to protect this girl, and he ends up fighting against the kind of the real bad guy, as well as like the bad guys that used to be kind of like friends with him, or really like they're pretty good bad guys. So it's very interesting, and it's so much fun. Like there's Dark Schneider is just such an in your face, bigger, larger than life kind of character. And he's such a jerk, and he's so chauvinistic, but at the same time, like you root for him, and like the battles are cool and the characters are cool, and it's super cool. This is one that I give a 9 out of 10 easily. Aggregate score for this is a 6.9, being a deviation of 2.1 between the two scores. And I don't really get it. Like, the animation is excellent for this. The dub is actually really good on this. I don't see why this wouldn't be scored higher, and I think this is it's an anime classic. If you're an anime fan, especially if you like, this is just kind of a crazy action show. A Bastard. I can't recommend that highly enough. The next one is literally my favorite anime ever. This is Kidosan Khan Nadesco, also known as Martian successor Nadesco. Kidosan Khan is just like a mobile ship, spaceship Nadesco. So basically, Nadesco is it's sort of a hybrid, like, drama, comedy, mecha show. It's about a group of people. It's actually a private company that builds a battleship and takes it into space for the specific purpose of investigating Mars, where the Earth lost a colony. Now, you follow the main character as actually this kind of down on his luck, just sort of like everyman character who is training to become a chef, and he winds up getting kind of wrapped back up into Nadesco because of being childhood friends with the captain of the ship, who he accidentally runs into when she's on her way to board the ship. He gets on and he gets roped into being their cook. Now, the series progresses from there, and it's just so much fun. The comedy, I think, is really on point. You don't have to be familiar with a lot of the shows that it's parodying, and it's parodying things like Yamato, Space Battleship Yamato, Macross, Irresponsible Captain Tyler, sort of all those like kind of space battle mecha war shows. I mean, maybe to a certain extent Gundam and things like that. But it's very much has this very interesting cast of characters, and you really get invested in like the characters, motivations, and they're also like, there's a whole lot of really good like comedic elements to the characters themselves that all work very well to make this like a really engaging crew that you kind of fall in love with every single character in the crew. And it's just an excellent show. I really can't say enough about it. Like I said, it's my favorite show of all time. I think it's, one of those typical 24, 28 episode series. I've watched it in a single day before, I think multiple times. I give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's a masterpiece. As an aggregate score on my anime list, it has a 7.6, so that's a out of 10. The difference being a 2.4 points on that one, and I think that's a crying shame. One of the best anime series ever made, in my opinion. Next up, and as we go through here, we're getting to where my score and the average score varies more and more. This is Midnight I Goku. Now, I will admit that I have not seen this in quite a long time, but I remember that when I did see it, it made quite a big impact on me, and that's no surprise, really. This is based on a manga by Buichi Terasawa. Now, you might know him from Cobra, which I've watched recently and very much enjoyed. The Space Adventure on the Sega CD was based on the same show, Space Adventure Cobra. With Midnight I Goku, it's basically butts and cyberpunk. So, if it's got a Buichi Terasawa doing the story, there are butts, and then whatever else it is, sci-fi in the case of Cobra, cyberpunk in the case of Midnight I Goku. And this is also animated by Studio Madhouse in the 90s, during their time period when I think they really had a house style, along the lines of like Ninja Scroll and Wicked City. If you remember that time period for them, Midnight I Goku is exactly in that time period. You have this character who, like Goku from the Journey to the West Legends, has an extending staff. It's of course like a sci-fi mechanical staff, but he uses this to sort of transport himself around and fight people, but he also has this cybernetic eye that can hack into computer systems. And I just, like I said, I think it's a short OAV series. I don't know that it's ever gotten a DVD release, which was really too bad, but it was on VHS back in the day, and I just remember thinking it was awesome. If you like that kind of Wicked City, Ninja Scroll type of thing, and you're into cyberpunk, you'll definitely like this. If you like Buichi Terasawa at all, you'll definitely like this. I give this a 9 out of 10. It unfortunately has an aggregate of 6.58, which is a difference of 2.42 points. Highly underrated in my opinion. Next up, these will probably be no surprise, Galaxy Express 999. The scores on these, I give these both a 10 out of 10. I think they're both excellent. The first one has a slightly higher aggregate on my anime list at 7.75, but that's still a difference of 2.25 from my 10, where I think it's a masterpiece. And then the second one is slightly more. It's a lower aggregate score, 7.45, for a difference of 2.55 points. That I also think is a 10 out of 10. I thought the second one was just as good as the first one. Now, I've recommended this to people like Vampire Mike, and he watched it and was kind of like, so I guess people's tastes are going to vary. I'm not sure what it is about this show that makes some people kind of go but these are masterpieces of anime cinema. They're a little older, talking from like the late 70s maybe, but it's just so amazing. They're very cool stories. You have they're kind of like hero journey stories, but they're also kind of about humanity, and you've got like these humans versus the robots, people with these robot bodies, and this boy runs into this girl, this woman Mattel, who she resembles his deceased mother, who was murdered by this robotic. They're basically like an elite class sort of. You've got this real classist system, kind of class war going on Earth, and so he takes this train into outer space just to leave it all behind, to get his own robot body, to be part of the part of the elite class, and also to get revenge for the death of his mother. And it's such an interesting journey that has such interesting kind of twists and turns as you go through the journey. And the second one, the same thing. You kind of catch up with him when he's a little bit older, and he's kind of asked to ride the 999 again, and it's just it's an amazing two movies. They're again top of the top of anime cinema. I certainly highly recommend them, and I think they're definitely underrated. Next up, the original AD Police. I know that the completionist just watched the TV series from the 90s, which was not all that good, in my opinion. I don't think he, thought it was that great either. But the original AV series is so good. I believe I talked about this recently when I watched Genocyber. Again, because I believe some of the staff, or maybe I guess it was the original manga creator that wrote like the manga for the AD Police, also did the manga for Genocyber, and they both have similar themes. Again, this is cyberpunk stuff, and these are short stories. They're just kind of little vignettes. I think they're maybe half hour, 40 minutes long, something like that. There's only 3 episodes for the original AD Police, but they're so good. The Man Who Bites His Tongue, I think, is excellent. The other 2 are really good. I give this a 9 out of 10. These are like anime classics. They're well animated. The music's great, and they're interesting little sci-fi stories. The aggregate score for this is a 6.45, which I think is criminally underrated. It's a 2.55 point difference between the 2 scores. So I highly recommend AD Police, the original AV series, not the TV series. Next up, we have Robot Carnival. And I've talked about this before recently, and I won't go on about it at length, but Robot Carnival is amazing. The animation is beautiful for this, and I forget exactly when this was. I think it's early 80s. It might have been late 70s. I don't know for sure, but this was one of the earlier, and not the first, but earlier anthology works that Katsuhiro Otomo worked on. And it's also it features a whole slew of anime directors from back then, just sort of like influential, important people that sort of like later on went on to continue to animate nice things. And because it was a movie format, you basically have all of these short stories, but they're beautifully animated, and they're again, it's all about robots, so they're all very creative, very interesting. If you're into science fiction, if you're interested in sort of some of the philosophical questions around robots, and some of the more like fantasy elements around that kind of science fiction, it's just a really wonderful experience to watch Robot Carnival and see. I forget how many different little vignettes there are. There's but there's multiple ones, 8, 9, 10, something like that. Very, very cool. I give this a 10 out of 10. I think this is a masterpiece, a classic of anime cinema. And this, unfortunately has an aggregate score of 7.42, so that's a variation of 2.58 points. I think criminally underrated for something that is so excellent. Next, the final thing that I'd like to talk about, and the widest variation in score, is the Skycrawlers. Now, this is more of a modern classic, but this is an incredible movie. Again, it deals with a lot of the similar themes to things like Robot Carnival. This is, I guess, based on a novel, which I didn't realize. I've never read the novel. I don't know if it's ever been translated and localized. But this is directed by Mamoru Oshii. It has music by Kenji Kawai. So if you are familiar with, Ghost in the Shell or the Patlabor movies, this is the extension of that creative team. And it's just so wonderfully done. Such an interesting story about, again, kind of, just sort of what it is to be human, or what it is to, you kind of have these soldiers. They're fighting in this war, and the way that it plays out, I don't really want to spoil it for people, but it's very much kind of a possibly dystopian future, possibly utopian future, but you really get involved in in these characters that they seem sort of odd at first, and they are kind of odd, and the more you learn about them, the more the oddness kind of comes out, and you start to get a feeling for like the world in which they live, and like the existence in which they're living, which they sort of also are questioning. And I think it is a sci-fi premise, but it also kind of like makes you think about your own existence, and our own thoughts on war, and our own soldiers, and things like that. It's a very, I think, a very mature, very Oshii-ish storytelling, and it's critically acclaimed. But I think just in terms of people that have rated this on my anime list, I think criminally underrated. And I find it ironic, especially because movies from the same creative team, such as Ghost in the Shell, that are maybe just more well known, are actually rated much higher, like a whole over a whole point higher as an aggregate. Even the Patlabor movies are rated higher. Skycrawlers, that I think is very excellent. It just really seems quite underrated in comparison to some of those other things, and in comparison to my own score. So that is my underrated kind of actionish and high cinema shows. I do actually would kind of like to highlight some other underrated shows that I've identified, ones that are maybe more focused on like kind of action and strong female lead characters, and ones that are maybe just more like otaku culture-ish, and it's a little bit more nerdy. So if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know, and I can, if you'd like to see more, I'll go ahead and do those. But otherwise, I hope you'll be looking forward to more content from me, including some more gaming content. And yeah, I hope you'll join me again. Thank you very much.